Joe Mama's the best. All right, let's look at some of the games because we have 8 games to look at this stream. Yeah, Michael Song's a good player. Okay, I was white against Anant Adury. Maybe he's a bridge player and he plays Drury. So this is a kid, he's like 14, and he ended up probably getting an IM norm, probably. He was only like 2,000 FIDE, but performance rating was like 2,500. So, okay, I played him in round 2. Round 1, I had a half-point buy. So we played a QGD, and then when the game was over, he told me in this position he expected me to play Queen D2 because he prepared for me. And usually I play Queen D2, which is like the 4th most common move. But that's what I usually play. And I decided to play Rook C1 this game, which is the most common move. And there were a lot of games in the Kasparov-Karpov matches from the 80s and 90s where, they played these lines. And most of the theory I know is from that. So, but yeah, white doesn't really get any advantage. Kasparov won one of the games, which was actually in one of my series. One of the videos I did the last 3 months, there was a Kasparov-Karpov game that I showed. And so forth. A little bit louder now, a little bit softer now. A little bit louder now, a little bit louder now. Hey, hey. Yep, Otis was good. Do you mind if we dance with your dates? Hey. Viewer Andy subscribed. Good, good. Fishbine was there, and I was there. It's never happened before. Who would have thought we were different people? The answer is fries. Okay, now, I also had this position in round 8 against James Rizzitano, who's actually older than me. And he played a lot in the 80s, and he sort of quit chess forever, and now he's back. Fishbine is another bridge convention, that's right. Yep. Okay, so he played C6. And this follows all the Karpov-Kasparov games from the World Championship match. This is the theory that I know. Hey. All right, and then Rook E1. This has all been played before. Now, in one of the Kasparov-Karpov games, Karpov made 2 mistakes in a row. He played A5, which is not good. And then his next move was Knight D7, which also isn't good. Then he improved later. That was one of the games that he lost. Might be the only game he lost in this position. I've had this position, I think, twice before. I beat Jimmy Dean. Unlike Abe Froman, he's only the sausage king of Indiana. In Michigan Open like 15, 20 years ago. And I think I beat somebody else in this position. So he played Rook E8. That's these moves are all good. Takes, Queen D2. Queen D7's okay. Rook E1. Queen F4 here. Okay, so far, I think we both played very well. And I think if I was to play this opening again, which I will, I would get this position if possible. I don't think I've done anything wrong. Or I think everything I did was right. Now, I don't like what I did. And it was based on a very, very, very stupid hallucination. So I think the way to go for an advantage here is to play G4 and try to play H4, G5 and run this bishop off of F6 and try to play Knight E5. So I think this is the way white should try to get an advantage. And you see this G4 idea in this variation a lot. And to the untrained eye, you might say, well, white has an isolated pawn and black has 2 bishops, so why isn't black better? Main reason black isn't better is this bishop's so good, and my isolated pawn is really good for, giving a square for my knight on E5. So knight E5 is good, this bishop is good. This knight can't really do anything of note. This bishop is just hitting on dead air. And my queen's more active than his. So by playing g4, h4, g5, I think white has a chance to get an advantage. And with optimal play, I'm sure it's a drawn position with correct play. But I'd rather have white. And I made 2 mistakes in a row here. I played knight e5, which the engine actually doesn't hate. The engine thinks knight e5 is fine. And my idea with knight e5 was after he takes, which is forced, and I take, I've gotten rid of his bishop, I've gotten rid of my isolated pawn, and I can continue. And I totally didn't see knight d7. I just didn't see it. After knight d7, like, it's just completely equal. I don't know why I missed knight d7. That's, like, embarrassing. So in this position, if I see knight d7 after knight e5, then I could take with the queen, which is what the engine does. And I'm sure this ending is a draw, but I'll take white. Again, if you don't trade queens, I can try to play for my kingside advance with my better bishop, better queen, Papa John's. So after this, I don't have an isolated pawn. His knight is sort of stymied here. And now if he plays knight d7, I can just play f4. And, you know, it should be a draw. But also with the queens off the board, e6 is just very strong. Maybe this should be a draw too, but white has a nice advantage here. This is good for white. But I wasn't trying to trade queens and maybe draw an ending. I wanted queens on the board because my queen's better than his. And my bishop, I have an attacking position with my pawn here, my bishop, potentially my knight could come in, and my queen's more aggressively placed than his. I just didn't see knight d7. I'm an idiot. So if I'd seen knight d7, I would have played g4 here and played for this kingside onslaught. And the other thing to do is to not play this opening anymore. But I don't want to do that. I sort of like this for white. So I like these isolated pawn positions for the isolated pawn. I like that I have this e5 square and my bishop is really good. And when you have the isolated d pawn, assuming you have a dark squared bishop, which I don't, it's not on e3 like blocking my bishop. So my bishop is free, I tells you. So if I have this position again, like I would play the same moves up to here. I think white's played correctly here. I would either play g4 or if I decided that wasn't good enough, knight e5 and take with the queen. And again, black did nothing wrong, so it should be a draw. But, I want to put more pressure on my opponent. So when they play the queen's gambit declined, I might have to find something that has a little more poison. Like maybe I could turn on Belle Biv DeVoe, and my opponent, who's 14, would say, like, who the hell is that? That would have some poison. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, Linder agrees. Also, what? That's right. Linder knew what I was talking about. Yeah. Exactly this queen's game. Exactly. King h4. That's the smartest chat I've seen all day. King h4 exclam. Bam. Okay, so I played this. Now I'm sort of lucky that I'm not losing a pawn, but the good player is always lucky. Queen g3 is an interesting move I didn't see. Queen g3 with the idea of f4. It says queen g3, king f8, f4, knight c5 equal. I probably would have played queen g3 if I had seen it, but since I didn't see it, I didn't play it. The idea is it threatens the bishop, and if knight takes pawn defending the bishop, then f4 attacks the knight, which is defending the bishop. Not easy to say all that. Anyway, I went to my doctor today, because I go to the doctor a lot, and usually I just get yelled at. But here, my blood pressure was 117/71. And then I said, gotcha, bitch, because it was good blood pressure. And all my other numbers were good. And she said I lost 11 pounds. So we looked all over the office for them because I had just taken a trip to England. I needed that money. And we couldn't find it. So she gave me 2 stone in return. So that worked out pretty well for me. I made a nice profit from that. Anyway, the ghost of Barbara Billingsley showed up at my doctor and told me to just hang loose, blood. And I was like, all right. That was like 4 jokes. Yeah. All right, so I'm not losing a pawn because I can play e6, and he played knight f8. Obviously, he could take, which is fine. And then I was going to play queen e3, threatening these 2 pawns. But I thought he would just move his a pawn, like a6, b6, and just lose this, and it's equal. The engine agrees. The engine says every move is equal. Knight f6, a5. But he played knight f8, which I couldn't refute that. All right. So in this game, I took, he took, I took, he took, and I tried to, keep the position not equal, but it was really equal. I tried and I failed miserably. And then offered a draw. There's nothing to do here. Go purple birds. Gotta know Ayers Rock. Don't know it. No, boo. Yeah, he had a good tournament, Anant. He drew an IM in the first round. He drew Hungaski on board 6 in the last round. He won and drew against a lot of people. Got the same score I did, I think. Unless he got more than me. I think he got the same score. Hungaski was lucky to draw the last round. So he won more money than I did. No. Anyway, that was my first game. Now, that was round 2, as discussed earlier.